Hey there, it's Diane Forster, and welcome to I Have Today, the show that inspires, empowers, and educates you through life's transitions. We talk about the art of intentional living, and I'm very excited about our show today because I don't know if you're aware of this, but as the founder of I Have Today and running a transformational coaching, education, and media company, I also have a little bit of a side hustle. And that little bit of a side hustle was my entryway into entrepreneurship. And I invented a kitchen product. And I wanted to bring on this woman today because I met her in Clubhouse several months ago, and she just blows me away what she's done in her life. Her name is Lindsay Brooks. I'm going to bring her on in just a few minutes. And most of the show is going to be talking to her because she's freaking genius. She's amazing. But first, before I do that, let me tell you the title of today's show. Our title is called How One Idea Led to $4 billion. One idea led to $4 billion. Lindsay's going to tell us the story all about that. So our intention statement this week is I have today to take my ideas as far as they can go. So yes, we all come up with ideas, right? The ideas are a dime a dozen. And an idea that's not executed on is just a dream. And so what Lindsay Brooks has done in her life for herself and for so many others is going to change the way you sit on your back on your ideas and instead to take action, because she is out there in the world helping so many entrepreneurs. It's her mission in life to do this. And she's got so many causes that she's involved with, but she truly believes that it's the entrepreneurs change the world and your ideas matter. And so I don't know if I've ever shared this before, but if I have, I'm sharing it again. There are 3.5 billion searches on Google every single day, 3.5 billion. And of those 3.5 billion, 20% of them are brand new search terms every day, which translates to 700 million new problems seeking solutions every single day. So don't think that you have dumb ideas. You don't. Your idea is the solution that somebody's seeking. Somebody is looking for what you have. So we wanted to make today's show all about Lindsay Brooks, her journey, what she's done, how she became a millionaire at the age of 19, and everything else that's unfolded, all the companies and businesses that she's involved with and what she's done. And so let's bring her on.
Hi, Diana. How are you?
So good. I'm so excited to have you on the show. What a privilege and an honor, truly. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So I want to share a little bit about you, and I'm telling you, this is just a little bit, you guys, about Lindsay, and then we're going to get into her story. And I've got just so many questions to ask you. So Lindsay Brooks is the founder of Boardwalk Holdings Corp and co-founder of Instapreneur, and is principal architect of the retail commercial and managed over $4 billion worth of consumer products worldwide. Her products have been sold in 80,000 stores and 120 countries. Lindsay made her first million at age 19 when she launched her first consumer product. You've seen them, the metal hair massagers. She's responsible for creating and managing strategy on many of the highest grossing campaigns and rollouts in the as seen on TV industry, such as the Shamwow, the Shtickty, Smooth Away, Slap Chop, and many more. She's coached spokesmen like Hulk Hogan, Gordon Ramsay, Vince Offer, and George Foreman. Her recent project, Star Collective, is a collection of the brightest mentors and changemakers in the world that she does exciting think tanks and social experiments with that challenge audiences to think bigger and demonstrate their talents and put their messages to the test. Her teaching style is interactive, and she has a show, don't tell approach to mentoring. Her blueprint for success is timeless, and she believes she can make any product sell with her formula, which is grounded in agile and lean startup principles. Her main focus is Instapreneur, which is a social entrepreneurs movement and an experiment that teaches all humans that they can be entrepreneurs and that their product is themselves. Wow. So awesome, Lindsay. So great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to start is I want to start at the beginning. You know, age 19, you made your first $1 million. What transpired before then?
Oh, well, probably a lot. Specifically, do you want me to talk about like professionally or just personally or just kind of
whatever? Yeah.
first? Okay.
Yeah, wherever you want to go.
Okay. I mean, I think like we all are, since we're born, I guess everybody's kind of trying to figure out why are you here, right? And I really didn't have a strong, consideration of exactly.
Oh. Uh-oh. Okay, she froze. Let me send her a little message in the chat. We're frozen. Oh no. Oh no. Oh wait. Hey, Lindsay.
Yeah.
So you were frozen for about a minute there.
Oh no. Okay. Where should I start? Where did I leave off?
You said everybody when we're starting out, we wonder why we're born, why we're here.
Yeah. And obviously like high school, post high school, you're trying to figure that out essentially. And for me, my journey started I was born in Las Vegas. I wanted to get away from Vegas pretty much as soon as I had a car, like most people. And I drove to Washington State. I was really interested in the wine business. I'd worked for Emeril in one of his restaurants when I was young as a busser, and I worked my way up to assistant sommelier. And the only state in the country where I could serve alcohol at 18 was Washington State at the time. And then I also had an opportunity to work in Canada. So I was really kind of interested in wine. I met somebody, got into a relationship, and it was a devastating one, to the point of, literally just almost like losing myself. I was young. It was like the first person you're ever with, first person you ever sleep with. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And I was young and impressionable. And at that time, I mean, when you're stuck in a bad situation, you can't really Google how to go to court or anything. Google was very new. I didn't even have a computer, barely a cell phone at this time. So when I decided to end it, I had to like walk to, the courthouse to figure this out, right? It wasn't like, something where you figured it out. And I was really ill at the time. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. My spouse had decided that he no longer wanted me in his life for whatever reason. I guess I was no longer going to be young and beautiful, losing my hair and losing my fingernails. So that was pretty upsetting. And at the time, we had just previously started a business with this head massager, and it was kind of an accident. I was working at this little Fremont market on the side. I wanted to make friends. I was doing the wine stuff, but professionally, sometimes it's hard to make friends, right? You kind of want the friends that you can go party with. You're young. They smoked cigarettes, had tattoos. It was Seattle, why not? Right. So I'm sitting in this market, and I was making these really ugly wind chimes. And I thought, I really want to make something that I can talk to people with, like be demonstrable, like make friends, right? And so it was just a thought. And at the time, I was doing my wine stuff, but then I was also helping him with his construction business. And I was itching my head with a piece of copper. This is kind of like rose gold, but a piece of copper wire like this, pulling it out of a wall while one of the guys was, doing like a bid, and we were counting up all the costs of doing this job for my spouse. And as I'm sitting there feeling that feeling of the copper is very conductive, right? And it gives you kind of this goosebumpy, tingly feeling. And I thought, I bet I could make something that does that, right? Invention strikes, I mean, the guy was like, you must be crazy. I see why Mr. Steve likes you. You are a freak, anyway. So I go home, and we fiddled with, some of the copper wire and different things that we had at home because we had a lot of building materials. And the rake was born, which is the copper rake. And it was literally just a rake that you did your body with. So I took like 20 of them down to the Fremont market, sold every single one in an hour. And I knew I had a hit, but it was really the head that felt really good. So we again, re-engineered it a little bit, created the head massager. And during the worst possible time in my life, this is, I guess, the amazing thing, kind of back to your beginning statements, where it doesn't matter how bad your life is, how small you feel, how little money you have. At the point in time when my marriage and my relationship was ending, and I had no one to go to and nothing. I didn't have Google. I didn't have unemployment. I didn't have all the things that people have access to maybe today. I went out in the street and I sold, and I took my last $200. Literally, I was like out on the street. My ex like took me off the bank account. I mean, I was literally like on my own, and I was sick too. So I'm throwing up. It's like the day after my last chemo treatment. I had to do this show. I had to barter with the lady at the place because it was $250. I only had $200. Gave her my last $200 for the booth rent, and it was the most powerful day of my life, Diane. because I stood up at that show. I put my wig on, because I was bald, and my little leather pants, and I weighed like 90 pounds. It's the best I've looked in years. I'm just kidding. And threw up and I sold, and I threw up and I sold, and I threw up and I sold, and I did $6,000 with my own product, right? And that was the moment when I realized I could pay myself. When I realized that ultimately that story of hope was what would guide me through the rest of my life. And don't get me wrong, as a business owner, I've been an entrepreneur now for 22 years, I guess. Is that right? Yeah, 22 years, I think. And I still every week have fits of anxiety, like panic that you can't imagine. I mean, so I'm not by any means immune to those feelings. When you have the level of success that I've experienced, and then you go from success to down, like, I mean, that's part of life, right? The greatest successes in life, people go up and down. It's part of it. It's part of inventing, right? And I think that that's what's so powerful about innovators is they thrive in problems. They thrive in chaos. When you see that crazy chaos coming toward you, that's your signal. It's time to invent, right? It's time to create a solution. And you've been chosen for this because you have that brain, right? And I have to constantly remind myself of that, obviously, just like anybody, because that's forming resilience. But that was the moment, counting that money that night, realizing it was all mine, having to figure out how to have a bank account when I never had one, I mean, things like this. It was exciting, and I learned probably the hard way. I had some luck. I want to say luck, as women, we always say it's luck. I think as women, we need to say it's our own opportunity, and we need to take that and run with it. Everybody experiences that imposter syndrome, even me, I constantly, I mean, there's been times where I've had to make phone calls and I just don't, because I don't feel good about myself. And that's crazy, right? Why would I of all people feel that way? I mean, I've made money with, crappy products. I'm not selling vaccines or something, there's just nothing compared to the kinds of things that people actually innovate with that are tremendous. I mean, I should be like very happy for those opportunities, but it's just amazing to me that even as strong and as powerful as these experiences are, sometimes we forget them, right? We have to keep reminding ourselves. So that was my first moment. So going from that, I realized I had an eye for products. And over time, I had 5 more huge hits because I just was good at kind of seeing things in the market. I didn't always invent my original products like you've got your amazing invention, which I so love inventors. My mother was an inventor. She invented really cool things and seemed to always get knocked off and never got her product out there. So I guess I'm probably carrying a little bit of a demon there, trying to help her. Yeah. She's almost 80 now. And my father was a business person that was also a musician, and he was kind of a failed, business person and went through a very tough time. So I grew up with demons. I started, working at 11 and I had 3 jobs, and I didn't graduate high school. So I know what it's like to have nothing and to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And I'm constantly, teaching people how to do that because it's tough out there, but there's so many more opportunities now than there are back then. And I think probably you would know this better than anybody, being that you're coaching and doing so much for people, encouraging them. But I think it's probably the biggest thing is we just get in the way of ourselves, right? We don't believe in ourselves,
Yeah, it's so true. Even me, like you, that, and I think what happens, Lindsay, is even the greater the success is, the bigger the demons are, the bigger the imposter syndrome is. And so, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's not. No. Because you will struggle. You will fall down. You will come up against roadblocks. You will have these things happen to us, which builds our resilience. But at the same time, as business owners, entrepreneurs, innovators, we think, oh, I'm just going to get to that next thing. And right. And then it's going to be smooth sailing. And it's just not the way it is. It's not the way it is. You can have all the success, but that success comes with such a tall order of experience, things that you experience. That's how we do it. So I hear you 1,000%. And I've had so many negative things happen with both my businesses. Right. So I applaud you for supporting, entrepreneurs the way that you do and innovators the way you do. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and I think that there's people like you and like us. It's funny. Someone said to me, it was really profound. They said, everybody needs 5 people in their life. They said, you need a coach, you need a mentor, you need a protege, you need a professor, and a friend. Those 5 things. And I just so value that. I think it's so important to have people in your life because it was funny. I was on stage with a certain person on Clubhouse that a lot of people don't particularly like, who's kind of supposedly like a big coach or something. And he shall remain nameless. But it was funny because somebody was saying something about coaches, and I said, you don't need to have a coach that's actually done what you've done. You just need somebody who can get you out of bed in the morning, right? And who can get you to go, because that's what the greatest coaches, I think, are people that can just kick somebody like me in the butt, and that's so valuable. I just wanted to touch on that because I know that that's what you do. And I just think any entrepreneur really needs to have somebody who's kicking them out of bed in the morning, getting them to get on those tasks and really pushing them and getting them to perform, because I wish I had that. I wish there was like such thing. I don't feel like there was such thing as coaches back when I was young. I just was constantly motivating myself, right? And I think that that's probably where some of the PTSD comes from that I have. But it's really necessary. You need a community, and I think that's why Clubhouse is so powerful, right? Because it's like my son goes, Mom, it's like your therapy. You're like on there, and you're just. And I talk to the other women that I spend time with there, and it's very similar. You really need that. You need to like voice things, get feedback, readjust. Like it's so powerful, just that readjustment. Don't you think? I don't know. Sorry, I'm not trying to change the subject. Like
no. No, I love where this is going. And I think what you say is really valid. We do need that support. I, as a coach, have several coaches that kick my butt and keep me in gear, because you can say that you want to do those things, and we have to do things that we don't feel like doing. Many, many times we don't feel like doing it. So we need somebody to hold us accountable to get us over that hump, like you said, and push through those limiting beliefs and those blocks that we have, so that we can have that next level of growth and success. And so I 1,000%, and I agree. Clubhouse has been really instrumental for a lot of people, and it's given us the stage and the platform to say, hey, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. And this is where I need help. This is where I need help and support. So yes, very much so.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that that's actually kind of like the ultimate pitch, right? Like, we talk about ideas, right? And I was just going back to, I loved your intro too. That was so interesting. I had no idea about the searches and stuff. Very cool. I didn't know that. I'm going to use that. I'm stealing that from you.
What else?
What's that?
So only 22% of books are written by women, and only 12.7% of inventors are women. So I'm on this mission to help women who are so like you're so brilliant, and what you're doing in the world. There's so many of them out there that are just sitting on their talents, just sitting on them.
Yeah. And that's something that, like you said, I think the thing about ideas is, like, I think it was Socrates or Aristotle, I can't remember. He said, the greatest kind of thing that people can do if they can do this is to have an idea, form one, and then don't take it as your own, right? And this is something that I'm constantly preaching to inventors, because obviously it's good to fall in love with your idea, yes, but you also have to kind of like put it back up on the shelf for a second and then put that investigator hat on, because you're not going to figure out the things that other people feel about that idea and even how they need it presented. Like, it was funny. I was having I have a podcast too. I should have you on mine as well. It's called Here's How to Order. And I had one of our friends who's an intellectual property attorney, and I've been in this business for 20 years, right? And Diane, sometimes you think, I probably know everything, right? I don't. What I know could fit into the eye of a needle, probably, really. But this guy, he said the thing that's so important about patent claims, right? Something very legal, very important. Everybody needs to have patents. We know this. He said, is how you word the claims, the wording, right? The pitch. And I have been preaching how you lay out the actual utility of your product, the demonstration, for 20 years. I've been preaching this. And I preach it from the advertising perspective of, you can get people to say yes if you use these words, right? It's like a magical incantation. You see Billy Mays on TV, you see Vince Offer. There's kind of like a secret here that it's the same every time, right? There's the way that we trigger people. It has to do with dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. It's literally how your brain works. We're working off of firing these different chemicals, right? And that's why we have the peaks and the valleys, and it only takes 2 minutes. There's an offer. There's actually like 10 points to a pitch that are very specific to actually getting it to work. But when I heard that in the legal side, I was so impressed, because I'm kind of like, I'm not a lawyer, but I certainly consider myself like a backseat lawyer. I know a lot about the law, and I've written some contracts and been through some stuff. So, but I just thought that was so powerful, that obviously, I mean, it totally makes sense. But if you can't get the patent board to believe that what you have is worth it, you're not getting the patent. And also, if somebody comes and like tries to say your patent isn't good, like PTAB or something, you better believe that that claim is really important. And he was saying so many times inventors fall in love with what they think their product does. They forget what the consumer says it does. And that's
Right.
the claim. The claim is what the consumer says. So,
Yes.
and you know, there was another great guy. I love this guy, Chris Du. You know him? He's on Clubhouse sometimes. He's a really great marketer. But he said the other day, he said your brand is not about what you say you are; it's what consumers say you are. Right?
Yeah.
Tony Robbins said it too. He said, never sell people your services. He said, sell people what they want. Right? Tell people what they think they need. You know, and so that's so powerful, right? So in pitching, we're constantly kind of looking at utility versus message, right? Utility is kind of important, but I always have believed there's nothing new under the sun, right? But there's a new way to say it under the sun.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the script there. But
I love that. That is so true and so powerful. Yeah, the message is so important. It's how you're saying it. You've got to be able to communicate it in a way that like someone who is reading a patent or someone who is watching your commercial, you know, your spot or your demonstration are physically feeling it. Like right. They see themselves using the product. They see themselves solving the problem. They see themselves experiencing the pleasure or, the gratification or whatever the emotion is. And that is language. We talk a lot about language here about,
I love
how
that.
to really, yeah, we do.
Because language is actually from this, it's crazy. The word communicate is actually from a Latin word, communicare, which actually means social interaction, which is an exchange, right? I'm sure you know this, but it's so true. Like I was studying, I'm sure you know about my chimpanzee thing. I was like saving chimpanzees and I started studying chimps for like 6 months. And man, these chimps, I mean, these are like our closest relative, right? And to think that they use 4 gestures to build communities, have families. I mean, gestures, right? Just gestures. I mean, hand gestures, right? And signals. And then when they learn American Sign Language, they can tell you an entire life story. It's insane to think that there's so much being conveyed in just how we use our hands, just how we text, how we type, right? And we're oscillating. And I think it's just interesting from a social perspective. Like we've oscillated between what is written, which is a gesture, like writing with a pen, painting, texting, whatever, to now talking again, right? We're doing podcasts, we're doing TikTok, we're doing Clubhouse. We're getting that feedback. It's the feedback we crave, right? It's me getting to dissect what you just said, putting it inside my soul and thinking, okay, how does that work for me? And then regurgitating it. The regurgitation is the power, right? Because it's that reciprocal interaction. I think that's so powerful, right? In sales and in work, for sure.
So powerful. Yeah.
And it changes every time. That's the weird thing. It changes every time. Every time you get a new person from a new channel, I notice this like just live, because we sell live and we sell online and we sell in retail and like different customers in different channels, they will say something different about the product. And it's so important to capture that one first impression, right? That's the first impression is what everyone's thinking typically, like, oh, I should have thought of this, or, like whatever. But there's these little things that kind of trigger people because it makes sense to them, ultimately.
Yeah. I remember when I was, in the development of the Spifter, I knew, working in advertising and TV sales, I understood about that. And so I paid to have a research study done before I even went to manufacturing, because I said, if there's not a market for this, or if I don't know who this market is, then why am I going to do that? And it was such a fascinating study. You just triggered it. I haven't thought about it in a long time, but the feedback that I got about, the ways they would use it, what they thought of the name, how they would use it and what they would pay for it. And it was such a good thing to do to get that intel, like you said. And you're really a demonstrator person, right? You like to show the demonstration. That's what I said, show, don't tell in your bio, right? Yeah.
But that's so great that you said that, because that's one thing that I do is research as well. So when I was young, I actually co-founded a research company called Hit Laboratories, and that's all it does is consumer product research. But what we do is we benchmark the products and the messaging surrounding the product to the previous hits in the same category. So what's great about it is it's got 15 years or so, whatever, of experience doing this. So when we test something, we kind of know where it falls in the demonstration world, So if you're just trying to like sell forks or something, it's probably not that good. But if you're selling like a fork that makes you lose weight. Well, then it's really good, right? Because it's looking at other diet product category items, right? And it goes through some of the points you mentioned, but take it farther. There's a whole page of objections, right? Which the power is in the objections, right? When you know why somebody won't do something, it's so much easier to turn it into a pitch, right? And that's what's so interesting, is exactly the same way the patent office works, right? When you file your patent, they give you objections. They say, no, sorry, there's a spoon like that before. There's this, there's that. And then the real good attorneys go, all right, how do we change it, right? How do we change it 20%? How do we eke it in there? How do we go, this is because of Thomas Jefferson's spoon in 19 whatever, but that's the point, is being able to tell a story and surmise something new, right? And I think that's so cool. I'm so proud of you that you did research, because so many people don't. They just run out and they sell it. And there's something really bad about that. I'll tell you why. Coming from a recovering street hustler, let me just say, the nature is always to go and try to sell something. And that's really good. And I applaud everyone who does. But if you don't ask people first, you bias yourself. You bias yourself to your own suspicions. And it's because you're getting paid, right? You're like, oh, I'm selling good. I don't need to worry about those other 95% of people. And then you get screwed, because those 5% of people will buy. You might sell a few thousand, a few 100,000, maybe 1 million, but you're missing the whole rest of the market. And nowadays, with TikTok, with Facebook, with all these other places, you really need to know those granular audiences, so that you have somewhere to go when the first audience doesn't work anymore. So very important. So very good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And actually, I want to talk about that. We talk about the way you market. I know you use a lot of social media to market. And wait, oh my gosh, I have so many notes on you. You scale brands that have traction on Facebook and TikTok and into retail. So what is that like? How does that work?
Well, so basically, if somebody has a product, let's say you had a product and you were already selling in some capacity, maybe you got a QVC deal, maybe you're selling just in some boutiques, maybe you're online and you're selling and you've got some traction. We can usually take that traction, if it's, sizable, it doesn't have to be huge, but just something. And we can sometimes scale it into another market. And so specifically with Facebook and TikTok, we have paid ads, and obviously paid ads work a very specific way on those two networks. It's very different than Google, very different than even YouTube, in the sense that it's using a pixel that actually has already digested data about the customer. So when we put your information in, it's kind of like, I would just picture the pixel kind of like a little Pac-Man, right? And that little Pac-Man is like munching people. And he goes, all right, here's Claudia. She's 45 and she's on HSN and she cooks every holiday. Well, meanwhile, on the opposite side on your site, we tie Mrs. Pac-Man over here, and she's like, oh, okay, come on over here. And like, there's this mating kind of that happens. But what's happening is it's not looking for 10,000 people or 10 million people that are all different. It's just looking for like 10 million Claudias, right? And there is actually 10 million Claudias, which is crazy. So those people literally do the same things at the same time. They like the same places. And because of those indicated behaviors and attributes, the pixel finds them. And see, it's in better nature of TikTok and Facebook to actually sell you good advertising, because they want you to keep buying ads. And typically those campaigns can do anywhere from, as low as, 2 to 1 all the way up to 30 to 1. I mean, it just depends on, kind of like the category, but we've done it with coaches, we've done it with products, we've done it with all kinds of things. But the idea of this is to have, when you're doing a drive to retail, the media spend is kind of like legal tender, right? It's like an investment you've made in the business. So when you take that to Walmart, or you take it to Target, they're like, oh, they're buying us eyeballs, right? So now those TikTok customers, those customers that are, sitting on Facebook, they're going to come to Walmart, they're going to come to Target, and they're going to buy the product. That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to almost like force something in, especially for somebody who's smaller, maybe doesn't have a distribution company. You can really do some damage online first. And then obviously you also make the money yourself. So you're not like having to pay some rep or some person. Obviously we have an agency, there's a few, but it's not, it's part of the built-in pricing. We have a performance thing too. Like if we get things that are doing very well, we sometimes will move into where we're actually running it, we're paying for it, and we kind of license it, or we do like a joint venture depending. So we do that as well. So yeah. The goal of those items is to get them, either scaling and then kind of turn them into like evergreen brands, or to have them acquired by us or someone else. So that's the goal.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at Iconology. So.
Yeah. Well, we are definitely going to have to talk, because I need you, girl, for my product.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds awesome. It's time.
Yeah.
Time for the Spifter. Do you have it out anywhere yet, or like have you sold it yet, or you just did
I mean, I sold. You
did QVC.
I was on QVC,
Okay.
where we sold thousands on QVC.
Really?
We sold out in 6 minutes. It was a one-time only appearance because I was part of their ambassador program. Well,
Okay.
so first, what happened
Was that
was
Sprouts? Was that back when they were doing Sprouts?
yes, it
Yeah.
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know this time. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So back then, what happened was the International Houseware Show was, going on in Chicago, which it is every year. It's the second largest show in the world, next to Hong Kong. And so I rented a little booth in the local inventors area, and the Spifter won an innovation award. It was one of 65 products that was honored out of 30,000 new products that year. So, I mean, my little Spifter. So it was exciting. And QVC was there. And so they came over to my booth and said, we're interested. We'd like to start selling it on our website. So that's what they did. And they would order, 50 sets at a time, and QVC always has to have its own unique deal. It has to be different than anything else. So they were selling them in sets of 2, pairs of 2. And so they, first they bought 50 sets, then it was 75, then it was 100, and it just started going up. And then they called me one day and said, it's been selling well. We want to, feature you as one of our ambassadors on air. So I flew out to Philly and trained, and then flew back out for my insurance. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they didn't keep it in stock, or was it just seasonal? Or?
They did for a while longer. They did for probably another year or so, maybe, and maybe even 2 years.
Might be good to bring it back. It's good to bring it back. It's good to bring it back. Everything's changed now. All the people are gone. They fired everyone at HSN. QVC's changed. Did? Curate, because Curate bought HSN. And then also QVC, they got actually a lady who I've known for a very long time now runs that division. So we should talk for sure, because she was actually out and then back in and then back out. So it's kind of interesting. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of opportunity. Yeah. And then obviously items like that, because again, and this is great for the viewers, is anything demonstrable, and even if it's not demonstrable, like make it demonstrable, right? The great exploding coffee cup, I don't know, but like come up with a way to kind of like lay out that pitch. And these are kind of the points of the pitch, which this might be good for some people to write down, but, and I'll just run over them real quick. But the first thing that's the most important when you pitch a product, and this is something I learned by selling live, is curiosity. Right? It's all about curiosity. You have got to compel people to be curious about that unique selling proposition that you have. But even before that, the most important thing is that you seem familiar. You want things to be familiar, because otherwise people get really worried, right? Because naturally we have 11 different objections as humans, 3 of which are actually kind of about health, life, and safety, right? So initially, if somebody doesn't seem very familiar to us, we might be a little standoffish. So act like you know them, seem happy to see them, and obviously make it look like something that's been seen. For example, with Shamwow, it's like a cloth, it's like a towel, it's like a sponge, right? These are all things that you've already seen before, right? So it doesn't feel weird. It doesn't seem like something extra that you necessarily need to buy, even though it's a little better mousetrap. Consumers love a better mousetrap, just something a tiny bit better. Save the 3.0 one for later, So when you go from that, you've got that familiarity, curiosity. But one of the most important things is shining a light on the problem, right? Very important. A lot of people, they sell the problem. And with certain products, like for example, cannabis or diet, sometimes we have to sell the problem more, mainly because on certain advertising networks, we're not allowed to maybe necessarily talk about them. So we sell, the affliction, like why would you need this, right? As opposed to the actual product itself. But solution is really what you want to focus on. Shine a light on the solution, right? The problem is important, but the solution is actually more important, because that's what makes people feel like they can do it. And when you're showing them, kind of like something you were saying earlier, it's like you want to be able to show people that they can actually do this themselves. Now watch with me, follow. I'm going to show you. It's really simple. Can't you see yourself doing this? It's really easy. These are things that actually kind of trigger somebody to go, yeah, actually I could. Oh, I do. It's just like when you see someone selling live. If you've ever seen me, I sold mops on TV for many years. We'd always say, now look at that cord. That's a 20-foot cord. It goes all the way to your neighbor's house. Now watch this. You can take it up the staircase, underneath the baby's bed. You can use it in the crib, kills the bed bugs and the dust mites. But maybe I didn't even show you any of that. I'm just talking about it, but you can visualize it, right? Because you have the baby and you have the staircase. I'm just standing at like a street fair, right? But meanwhile, you've just gone there, right? And that's telling that great story. Oftentimes people also need to see proof and belief. Sometimes you have proof, right? If you've got a diet product, you've got a beauty product, you've maybe got the before and afters, hallelujah. That really helps a lot. Having good proof, having good studies definitely is great for those people that really need to think about it. But then if you don't, let's say you're new to this and you don't have a lot of that stuff, belief. Make people believe you. You got to be like a preacher. You can't be like, this is kind of good, but there's something better down the street. You got to believe in yourself, and you will get that proof because people will believe in it because of you, and they will be happy to give you proof. So testimonials, we use those after a lot of times. You'll see that many of the commercials, the people say they tried it, they loved it. They might even use it and show. That's actually very good as well. When you're making a video, you want to show people that other people can actually do it. The best testimonial is somebody grabbing your product, using it live the first time. That's the most amazing, right?
Wow.
And the final two things are very important is obviously your value proposition. Make sure that what you're giving is a good value proposition, and don't only focus on your product, right? So many people, they get tunnel vision. There's tons of things in other categories that you can give away that go great with your item, right? Like every product I have has a third thing you give away free. Who cares, right? But sometimes people are more willing to pay for the free thing, right?
Yes.
So like your product, you could have a whole system, which would be amazing. And obviously you make more money that way too. So you don't have to necessarily invent all that stuff. There's stuff out there that you could just brand. And then obviously you got to have a good call to action, which is call in the next 20 minutes because we can't do this all day, or call or log on. Here's an order. Tell people what they need to do. Make sure you tell them. Otherwise, they're not going to know where to go. And always use humor. Makes people laugh and it gets them ready to go. So anyway, those are some little points that hope help.
Those are amazing points.
Sure. Thank you.
And the 10 things that every pitch needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So powerful. I hope you guys were taking notes. Otherwise, you're going to have to watch the replay. So that was super powerful. Yeah. So can you just share a little bit about the other product? Like what happened after the head massager? What was your next invention?
I actually came up with a hair accessory that actually did really well. A couple of them actually. I did a hair spiral that we did on QVC, and then also sold live, and it did incredibly well for kids. That sold for, actually it's still selling, but we sold it for about 10 years, and that was excellent. And again, like I say, I just kept kind of finding things and coming up with like a way to sell them, and I was just good at a pitch, right? So, and then we did another hair product, which is this. It's like a flexible comb that goes in your hair. And it just goes across the back, and it was called Easy Comb later on in life, but that was another one of our items. We did the buns, which I don't know if you've ever seen those before. They're like these hair buns that you put in your hair and, wrap them up. Those weren't as big, but they were still very big. The Shamwow was a product that had existed in the past. Obviously, I was one of the first people that, got that in front of a camera. And that was another amazing item that, again, it was actually being done at the time by Billy Mays. Vince was not really a pitchman at the time. He was more just like a sideshow kind of a person and wanted to be on TV. And we thought, well, why not? So let's try it. And that was an amazing kind of situation because the product initially didn't sell on TV. It actually did not gross very much money at all, but it was finding the right audience, right? So originally it had sold mostly to people in auto shows and guys. And, the initial media test that was done, unfortunately, they put it in a lot of, HGTV kind of like women's channels. They didn't quite get it, not because women don't get these things, but it was just the way it was pitched. And so when the media was changed to being more toward the Comedy Central group, the men on ESPN, all of a sudden it went from a nothing item that was getting thrown away to a 5-1, which was a major hit. And then it sold all over the world. And then we did Slap Chop, and we regionalized Slap Chop internationally, all over the world. That was another huge hit. And then the sticky was an item that I literally had a 10-year relationship with lint for some reason. There's these categories, right, where you're just like, I can't get enough of lint rollers, bungee cords. If you see my office here, it's like all just trash that is mine, but beautiful products that people send me too. But I always tease because I'll keep like the same bungee cord, for like 10 years. I'm like, this is going to be something, like I have this, it's actually a fitness item, but it's just a piece of like balloon, but I'm thinking of making something out of it. Anyway, long story short, like you, I'm always kind of inventing, but the sticky roller, I shot that 5 times, 5 different times, did research, tested it. Finally, it worked with Vince, and that was just another great product. And on to the wine opener, which the wine opener was huge. And I'm actually more proud of the wine opener probably than anything because it was 100% us. We didn't have, necessarily a lot of partnerships. We did it all ourselves. We put it into retail ourselves directly. And then we also ran all of the online media as well. Because at this time, prior, there wasn't really like Facebook or anything as much as there is now. And that was really where it really emerged. So the air pump wine opener, that was one of our biggest products. So, and then that got on HSN, and it was just unbelievable. So, yeah.
That's so amazing. Okay. So talk about your recent project, Star Collective, and your focus as Instapreneur. Talk about either one of those or both of those. Star Collective.
Yeah, sure. So Star Collective is a group of, it's kind of like we have a lot of people that are, just various, I would just call them experts, experts in their field that we work with on various joint ventures. And those people actually funnel into our iconology enterprise. Star Collective is kind of like where we do a lot of think tank things. We kind of test people out. We do some shows, and what I mean by shows are like live events online and on TV where we have inventors come, they pitch, our stars come, and they kind of guess kind of check out the pitches and give feedback, and we see if actually what they say works. Like we've done them where they've been live and we've had people sell based on what people were telling them, like the mentors, kind of like I don't know how to call it, but it's almost like roasting the mentors in a way. We put them on and we say, all right, tell them to do this, and then if it works, right? And that's been pretty cool. We did one last summer, and we plan to do another one this fall. But those are very fun events. So we kind of like try out those people, and then if they seem like they can give good advice and that they have something to offer us from a specific expert kind of perspective, we bring them into iconology, which is a true co-op. And so you've got people from like Liz Heller, which you may know her from Clubhouse, Lori Champagne, my partner Peter, John Creemans from HSN, like just various very interesting people that have kind of a connection to a certain market, and then we all work together to launch, to market, and to flip that item, into something bigger. So iconology is really the study of what makes an icon. It's not so much about being an influencer, or being somebody who just has, or an inventor. It's actually, when do you emerge as the ideal that humans actually want? And that's kind of that business. And it's rooted in a little bit of a venture studio with an accelerator. And then we have our research team. So we're just doing some really cool stuff with that there. Instapreneur is it was a think tank that I created. It was born out of the U.S. Patent Office. I was invited there to teach commercialization. And I did like a kind of a Tony Robbins sales mastermind in the Patent Office. It was the first time in history anyone's ever done this there. Wow. Also, the last time was before the COVID thing, but it was really amazing. And it was just kind of like the heart and soul of this podcast really is, I think, the idea, is that so many people have ideas, but they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to sell. They don't know how to even ask questions. They're engineers, they're scientists, they're moms, whatever. And they just don't quite have that knowledge. So we just said, look, let's just teach you how to sell it. Let's just teach you how to communicate and to interact. And that was really powerful. So Instapreneur it's a club. It's a commercialization club that we have. We have a free club. It's open. It's on Facebook. You can check it out. We do a thing every Tuesday night. Tomorrow night, we'll be doing another one. It's called the Wolf Pack. I've been doing that for a year. It's a live show. We get about 20,000 people that watch. It's wow. Done on Zoom, but we broadcast. And it's literally like a live pitch tank. But the way it's different than like a Shark Tank or something else is we really hammer home those 10 points that I taught you. And we teach people how to minimize the pitch, and we use a system. And we do it. It goes like 8 hours. It's kind of like Clubhouse before Clubhouse was cool, but like on Zoom. And we have like guests, wolves that come on and everybody feeds back. It's kind of done mastermind style. So we do that every 2 weeks. And then we have our Genius Club, which is kind of like, it's a club, but it's also an accelerator. So many of the people that are in that are either DIYing their product, just using kind of like my videos and my steps, and it's paid, or they're in our accelerator, which is, we have like a 5-part tranche system, which is basically you start with the research, you test the pitch, then you move on to doing a live test, which is where we actually go sell live with you. We go and sell live at a farmer's market. We film it. It's very cool. You get a lot of great live feedback, testimonials. We do pre-exposure, post-exposure surveys. And then we change the pitch again. And then we do a Facebook test. And some products we're doing TikTok instead, or both. And then we change the pitch again, and then we do retail. And then once we kind of have determined if it's going to sell in these places, which is they start kind of making sales at that live test, then we launch it into retail if the person wants to move forward. So yeah.
So what about funding these projects? Does your company, or do you connect them with people who want to invest in it? How does that work?
So we have partnerships with lots of different investors that are obviously interested in funding them, but many of these items are self-funded because they're able to be, because obviously you don't need to really go past selling your product like through the first tranche of research if it's not going to sell. And retail is the greatest business in the world because it's all about margin. So as long as you have the good price on your product, for the most part, most people can fund it because you can either get business credit, you can get factoring. I mean, there's kind of a lot of misnomers that product development costs all this money. It can, if you do it kind of wrong. It doesn't cost a lot of money if you do it lean. don't get me wrong, it's an investment, but it's not something so substantial, because if you have sales, it's very easy to get, people to back you. It's not as hard as, like, I don't know, making Facebook for cats or something, funding a purchase order. You can fund at a corporate bank at 5%. You can get an LC. Many of the Chinese factories will even give you credit. I mean, there's a lot of ways to fund orders, especially when you're working with QVCs and HSNs, because they're easily fundable. So,
yeah. That's so great. That's so awesome.
So we start with teaching people how to do it themselves. If there's things where we can fill in eventually when it's working, we are very, I'm not gonna say we're risk adverse, but that's why we have the system, obviously, is to test things, because we don't have the time, to test them. So we kind of put it on the inventor to learn that process, but we do help them, through it. So, but that's good for them, because then by the time they're ready to hand it off, they're sure that they want to. And also they sometimes don't want to, because they've realized they have a winner and they can run it, so they're kind of like trained. And there's things where, again, we fall in as a rep or distributor, but it just kind of depends on the relationship. So,
yeah. It's so fantastic, everything you're up to. All right. One other thing I want to ask you, well, 2 questions, because there's a question I ask all my guests, but currently building machine learning systems for impulse purchases online. What is that you're doing? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So there's something that I can't talk all about, but I have a partner with my HitLab company. We have some kind of, they're not involved in that company, but between the two of us, just joint ventures on basically building systems that can predict, how people will respond to certain messaging, essentially. So we have a quiz program that we built. That's a software system. We have an online testing program that's very fast. But basically it assigns attributes, to people. And then we're able to use those for kind of optimizing advertising and ad spend and placement on boxes and all kinds of different things. So, yeah. And so the idea of it is it's AI in the sense that it's learning as it grows, right? So as it's been given inputs, it creates outputs. So it's live. So.
Fantastic. So fantastic. All right, Lindsay. So I ask all my guests, how do you live the I have today way, which is intentionally in the present moment? What does that mean for you?
It's funny. I mean, personally, I wake up like I can't breathe half the time. It's like, just because, and that's not because things are bad necessarily. It's more like I'm so excited, right, about life. I'm excited about my business. I'm excited about what I can put forth to make it better. And I think that, like, if you're waiting for things to happen to you, then you're not that excited about life, because you're waiting for a phone call or an email that may never come. I'm like, make the email, make the phone call. I guess I would just say that it's intimidating. Yes. It's challenging. Yes. Being someone who's innovative and problem solving is, but ultimately your brain is made for this. You're made for this. So, like, you're made for every day. You're made for taking those breaths. And even if all you can do is get up and take the first breath, if even all you can do is just drag yourself to your desk or drag yourself outside to feed your dog, it's a win. Give yourself that moment of taking it as a win. I found myself, one of the greatest things I just learned recently that really helped me was I was just having like a very overwhelming week. And I thought, the one thing in the world that really would help me right now is for me to just decide that I took responsibility for that. And I just did. I just in my head, well, I'm taking responsibility for it. It's not exactly what I want, but I'm taking responsibility. And the minute I did that, it was like something lifted, right?
Yes.
Like, good girl, So those little conversations with yourself, I don't know. That's what I would say. What gets that?
I love that. I love that answer.
That's all you got.
Yes. So true. It's so true. So interesting. As we're recording this right now, I just got a reminder on my calendar that my patent renewal is due. Talk about the universe. How strange is that?
Yeah,
right?
Snapping you on the shoulder. All right, it's time.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my sifter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it.
So Oh, I'm sending you some. Don't worry.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So how can people find out where would you like to send people?
Sure. So they can go to, if they go to my, my Instagram, Lindsay Bean, or actually it's Lindsay on the Horse now. Sorry. At Lindsay on the Horse. I have a link tree there. You can click that, or you can just go to iconology.io.
Iconology.io.
Or you can email me at lindsay@iconology.io. So
got it.
And I have a calendar and different things. So you can hop on. Okay. I do like 15-minute talks when I can. And then my club on Facebook is called Instapreneur. So you can go to the open one and join, or you can go to Instapreneur Mastermind, which is the page, and you can watch the Wolf Packets on Thursdays or Tuesdays at 5:30. So
yes. Definitely do that.
If you follow Instagram, there's a lot of, I always post things there. So you can follow it.
Yeah, I follow you on Instagram. I love your
right.
posts. Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time today and all your brilliance, everything that you're up to in the world. We so appreciate it. Yeah.
It's really been
what?
Well, let's sell some spifters.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I think there's a reason we were aligned. So I'm looking forward to exploring that. So thank you so much for being here. It's truly a pleasure. And I wish you a beautiful today. And I'll see you soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. So awesome. Isn't she brilliant? Just absolutely love her. You guys, we didn't even touch, all the things that she's up to in the world, her philanthropic efforts, and, she's met presidents before. She's, like she said, she went and did that thing at the patent office, never been done before. She's truly she's an icon herself and a gem and a one of a kind. So we are so grateful that she was here today. Okay, so on that note, what I want to say is don't sit on your ideas. And maybe you don't know what they are yet. Maybe you don't have the clarity or the focus or the direction yet. Maybe you haven't discovered what your passion or purpose is yet. So I created a program called the 10 Days to Your Passion and Purpose program. And it's just 10 days. It's $10, so affordable, where you're going to get, you're going to get the clarity, the focus, and the direction that you need to, get clear on who you are, what's really true for you and what you really want. And when you do that work to get clear, like Lindsay said, things just start popping for you when you get that languaging right and that messaging right. And this is your messaging for your life. So that's at 10daypassionandpurpose.com, 10daypassionandpurpose.com, and register for it and spend the next 10 days figuring this out for you. What ideas, dreams, goals, visions are you sitting on that the world is waiting for? Remember what I said, 700 million new problems every day seeking solutions that you have the answers to. So powerful. So check that out. All right. So what we're going to do now is we are going to do our mantra meditation. This is how we end every show. Let's tie in everything we talked about today. And so that you can go move through the rest of your day feeling better than you did prior to the show and moving in inspired action. And that's one thing Lindsay said, she gets up every day and, she can't breathe because she's so excited to make the phone call and send the email and make her life happen and live in inspired action. So let's infuse some of that in there. So, all right. If you're driving, obviously you can't do this. You can just sort of listen in, but everybody else, feet flat on the floor, hands on your lap, face them down if you feel grounded, turn them up if you need to receive more energy. And we're going to close our eyes. We're going to breathe in for the count of 4. We're going to hold it for 4. And then we're going to breathe out for the count of 8. And we're going to do that 2 times. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Everybody close your eyes. Breathe in for 4. Hold it for 4. And breathe out for 8. Get all that air out. Do that one more time. Breathe in for 4. Hold it for 4. And breathe out for 8. Just listen to the words. I have today to love my life. Something really good is going to happen to me today. I can feel it. Miracles big and small. I notice them all. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. I have today to take my ideas as far as they can go. I was born here to create. I was born here to make a difference in the world. And I'm going to use my talents and my gifts to bring that to the world, to help and serve others. I can take any idea and take it as far as I can take it. If Lindsay can take an idea that led to $4 billion in sales, what's possible for me? What can I do? What can't I do? Absolutely nothing. There's nothing I can't do. I'm going to view the world with a different lens from now on. And I'm going to be an innovator. I'm going to think innovatively. I'm going to look for, how can I make things better? How can I improve on this? When something frustrates me, I'm going to take note and not complain about it and go, oh, here's an opportunity for me to think and act like an innovator. I'm going to tap into those skills. I'm going to tap into my entrepreneurial spirit. I'm going to use my life to be the creator that I am and bring those ideas that are swirling in my head that I know that I have into fruition. I'm going to bring them to life. I'm going to talk to people about it. I'm going to get help. I'm going to get those 5 people that Lindsay talked about in my life, and I'm going to live and move my life in inspired action each and every day. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I want to thank you so much for being here. Thanks to Lindsay Brooks, my guest. Make sure you follow us at Diane Forster Official on social media. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at Diane Forster. Follow me also on my podcast, I Have Today with Diane Forster, and my website, dianeforster.com. That's it for this week's episode. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.